I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, March the 30th, 2016. The president of Greece is in Israel this week. Prokopios Pavlopoulos met today with Israeli President Reuven Rivlin in Jerusalem, where the two discussed regional issues, including the refugee crisis and the threat of the Islamic State terror group. Rivlin told the Greek leader countries in the region must recognize the common danger posed by militant Islam and IS, unite against this enemy, and form one alliance, a regional security and economic alliance, to bring an end to global terror. To which Pavlopoulos responded that IS's terror is aimed at all of humanity. He said, "We must make clear to Europe that we stand against terror together, and that when it comes to the issue of the refugees, we will not allow expressions of hatred between people, which is the source of racism and anti-Semitism." The Times of Israel reports that envoys from the Middle East Quartet, Russia, the United States, the European Union, and the United Nations met on Monday with officials from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, as well as with officials from the Palestinian Authority. This according to the Office of the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, which sits in Jerusalem. The office's statement said the envoys met to discuss preparations for the quartet's next report, and that during their visit they took the opportunity to meet with the Israeli and Palestinian officials. The content of those meetings was not publicized. The Special Coordinator's office represents UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in diplomatic efforts related to the peace process. It is led by Nikolai Mladenov of Bulgaria, who was appointed by Ban in February of last year. The city of Venice began a series of commemorations last night, Tuesday, March the 29th, marking 500 years since the establishment of the world's first official Jewish ghetto. The Venetian ghetto was instituted on March the 29th, 1516, when the Venetian Senate, under Chief Magistrate Leonardo Loredan, ordered the approximate 700 Jews living in the city to be confined there. Jews were forced to live in the ghetto in Venice until 1797. The ceremony last night included a performance of Gustav Mahler's Symphony No. 1 in D major, conducted by Israeli-born Omer Meir Welber, and an address by historian Simon Schama. President of the World Jewish Congress, Ronald Lauder, attended and addressed the event as well, where he praised Jewish resilience in the face of anti-Semitism and adversity. Lauder said the creation of this ghetto was a terrible act. It was the first time that an entire community was separated because of their religion. And yet, he said, in spite of this decree, the Jewish community still flourished within the walls. The Antidefamation League expressed concern over a recent vote of the New York Senate to defund the City University of New York, or CUNY, after reports of anti-Semitism there, calling it the wrong solution to a real problem. The Senate voted earlier this month to move millions of dollars in annual operating costs for the senior colleges of CUNY back to New York City, over what they felt was an inadequate response to a number of anti-Semitic incidents that occurred on some CUNY campuses. ADL New York Regional Director Evan Bernstein said the ADL has great concern about anti-Semitism and anti-Israel bias on many CUNY campuses, and they were pleased when the school's chancellor, James Milliken, formed a campus climate task force to investigate those incidents. Bernstein said, however, that the measure suggested by the Senate was ineffective. He said defunding the system will not solve the issue of anti-Semitism, but rather simply punish students, regardless of their actions, positive or negative. The ADL also welcomed New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's indication that he would ensure that the state would fund government operating costs for CUNY, and asked New York State Senate leadership to reconsider their action. The Forbes Under 30 Summit will take place next week in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. The four-day event brings together young entrepreneurs from the U.S., Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Forbes said the Israeli host cities serve as a perfect backdrop for the summit. The first two Under 30 summits were held in Philadelphia, and back in October, when Israel was named as the destination for the third, Editor of Forbes magazine Randall Lane said there was no better place than Startup Nation, where innovation is at the core of everything that is going on, referring to Israel. In addition to panels, presentations, and mentorship from government and business leaders, the summit will offer participants historical and archaeological tours in the country. Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat said he was honored to be hosting part of the event in Jerusalem and that he looks forward to, quote, welcoming the world's most innovative entrepreneurs to the city. The summit runs April the 3rd through the 7th. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, March the 30th. At 7 o'clock, Republican presidential primary candidates John Kasich, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and the Speaker of the House, Representative Paul Ryan, address the 2016 AIPAC National Policy Conference in Washington. At 9 o'clock, Mark Golub sits down with the representative of the Jewish community of Hebron, Yishai Fleischer, who analyzes Israeli life today. And coming up at 6:30, right after this newscast tonight, conversations from AIPAC. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, March the 30th, 2016. I'm Teisha Bader.